I am live. This is Internal Sadist with another podcast coming back at you guys. This one's going to be about female manipulation. And let me adjust my audio because apparently it's not coming through my lovely headsets, but I can actually hear it, but it's not coming through my headsets, which is pretty nice, I guess. But let's fix it real quick. Give me a second, guys. There we go. Much better. Fixed it. All right, I think we're ready to go. Yep, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. All right, this is your boy Internal Sadist. I had to fix my headset. Sorry about that. Um, this podcast is going to be about female manipulation. The topics I'm going to cover is opting out, manipulation. She she hides. She hide and oh, well, I'm sorry. Opting out, manipulation. She hides behind plausible deniability, and my afterthoughts. Obviously, I didn't put it in there, but it's pretty much going to be my afterthoughts. Um, so the topic of the day is basically female manipulation. And the topics, like I said, are, okay, hang on one second. There we go. Make sure everything's straight. Yeah, basically, the topics are manipulation, opting out, and she she had behind plausible deniability. So that's going to be the lovely topics of the day. So sit back and enjoy and put on your seatbelts. Um, this is going to be a lovely This is going to be a lovely podcast. Let's see here what we got going on. So the topics of the day are basically what I just stated. The problem with female manipulation is a lot of men go through it, and a lot of men don't even realize they're actually in the middle of it when it's happening. Um, Manipulation can actually range from just regular old run of the mill manipulation to you know your yeah regular run of the mill manipulation and of it when it's happening. Um, and dang, I'm having a brain fart. Dang, run of the mill manipulation and other things like gaslighting and stuff like that along the lines of that. So you have pretty much a lot of different ways that men are being manipulated while in relationships for all intents and purposes. It sucks, but it happens quite often. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like you got to watch out for it as a man, and you got to be able to traverse it properly. The problem with it isn't just the fact that you're being manipulated. There's also gaslighting, which is a form of manipulation to make you believe that you're going crazy, which really sucks once you think about it. You have other forms of manipulation where they make you feel like you're inadequate or not worth it or everything else under the sun. The thing about manipulation is it's women's way of a good example of manipulation is choosy signals. And this is what I'm talking about has behind plausible deniability. Choosy signals is a good example of female manipulation. Instead of walking over there herself and asking you out or, being a big girl, she basically does choosy signals to get you to come over to her so you can ask her out. So she can either A, turn you down and or tell you yes. That's actually manipulation within itself, right there. The sad part about that, a lot of men don't realize that and they say, well, it's choosy signals, bro. It's choosy signals. Actually, it's manipulation. Because at the end of the day, if she wanted you that badly, she could actually walk over there and come get you and ask you out. But the funny thing about women is they prefer to hide behind plausible deniability. And just in case you might turn them down or tell them no, they like to hide behind that whole entire thing. The sad part about that is, in this day and age, the chances of a man actually turning down a woman are very slim to none, unless he doesn't meet her requirements, or unless she doesn't meet his requirements and stuff along the lines of that. However, the chance of a man turning down a woman is very slim to none. So I find that very odd that women don't want to be turned down when in fact there's a high chance that they won't be. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of things. What's up, Elder Monk? There are a lot of things that would get a woman turned down, but like at the end of the day, in this day and age, it's very slim to none. The funny thing about the whole entire thing, when it comes down to it, is how women send out their choosy signals so they can manipulate you to come over to them so you can ask them out. That's nothing more than a big manipulation tactic so they can actually always have plausible deniability. What that basically does for her is sets her up to the point where all actions after that choosy signal is nothing more than your actions, because she technically didn't come over to you and ask you out or do anything. You technically came over to her. It's basically how it looks. And the sad part about that, that's technically how it looks, especially if you're at a gym and you're just working out and you watch a woman and a guy basically, and he makes the move on her after she done gave him choosy signals and stuff like that. It actually puts the ball in her court to say that you're the one that chose her, not the other way around. It's typically how that stuff works. Because a lot of women will do that or say that. And that seems to be like a famous line that, you chose her, she didn't choose you. Even though choosy signals went out. So, and the sad part about that, when that happens, is like, you got to either be able to, make her come to you, or go over to her and play hard to get. Because the sad part about that, the minute you go over to her and capitulate to her choosy signals, you've already lost the battle. It's basically like what I say about the whole entire relationship thing. If a woman asks you to be in a relationship with her, or like I was saying about the whole entire what are we question that you'll get from women, the whole entire what are we question is basically a way for her to pass blame or judgment just in case she doesn't get her way, or just in case she doesn't get the desired answer from you that she desires to get from you for all intents and purposes. Because at the end of the day, what happens with that is she basically puts herself in a predicament where, now she has to basically, be worried about being turned down or anything like that. And women hate that to be put on the spot. That's the thing about women. They hate to have to be embarrassed in public, or they hate to have to be put on the spot. And that's typically how a lot of that stuff works. So, she'll basically ask you, what are we? And I always say to that, she asks you that question, you basically say, you don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. How about you tell me? So that's basically what you want to do with women, is basically put the ball back in their court. Because if you don't put the ball back in her court, then she has the ability to have plausible deniability for everything that ensues after decisions are made for all intents and purposes on your behalf. Because the sad part about that is she's actually making all the decisions for you, but you have to actually initiate the actual relationship. This is typically why we say in the manosphere that women are the gatekeepers to sex, men are the gatekeepers to relationships. This is typically how this works, because women will put you in a predicament where you have to actually say you're in a relationship, whereas they didn't put you in a predicament, for you to climb in between their legs. They were all willing for that one, but they'll put you in a predicament to actually say you're actually in a relationship. And that's typically how it works. They manipulate the whole entire situation so you can actually say you're in a relationship. And typically the question that you'll get, or the line of reason that you'll get, is, what are we? That's a manipulation tactic. That's nothing more than a big, humongous manipulation tactic. What are we? You basically make her answer that question instead of you ever answering that question, before the fact that if you answer that question, like I said, you automatically capitulated to the whole entire manipulation that she's actually putting on you. Because the sad part about that, by doing that, now she's not invested in you, and now she has all the control in the relationship to basically say when she wants to make it go south, or when she wants to bow out, she can basically blame you and say it was all your fault, basically, because you pursued her and you cornered her into this relationship. Is typically how that will work. And that's typically how a lot of the relationships actually end and work. A lot of the women will say, You're the one that actually put him in a predicament to actually choose to actually be that way. Sad part about that is she wouldn't be wrong. Because if you look at it from an outside perspective, you're the one that approached her at the gym to ask her out, or you're the one that approached her outside, out and about in public to actually ask her out. It don't matter how many choosy signals she threw at you. You're the one that actually initiated the physical asking out for all intents and purposes. So she has plausible deniability the whole entire time when it's taking place for this reason. Because you're the one that approached her, despite the fact that she's the one that gave you the signals to come hither, basically. So when you get that far into a relationship, you basically want to make her say what the heck you are, or B, not answer at all. Because the minute you answer, you already co-signed your death warrant on that relationship, which is the cold hard reality. Now the sad part about that is there's ways around it and ways out of it, but that's for another video. Right then and there, you're basically in the mess. You're actually in a conundrum right now as you speak. So it ends up being one of those things where, like, you have to basically, as a man, be able to sort out what you got going on and figure out how to traverse that relationship now that you got yourself in it. And the sad part about that is it's going to be very rough after you. It's going to be very rough to traverse that relationship after the fact that you done got yourself in it. What's up, Americus? What's up, Troy the man? Long time no see, pimpin'. The problem is now that you're actually in that situation where you got manipulated into the whole entire thing. Now she has all the power in the world to basically do and say anything she wants because you basically capitulated to her wills and wishes. That's typically how that works. This is typically how women always have the ability to have the out in a relationship, or typically always have the ability to conveniently change her mind like the wind. So it's all about being able to take control of the situation and make it so that it's better, or take control of the situation and make it so that, you can paint it in a light where, you can paint it in a light where you're looking like the person that was the aggressor, or, the one that, helped her make the decision of being in a relationship with you, when in fact, she doesn't really have to do that. She could have came over herself and did it, but she doesn't want to. Because, why? When you're doing it for her. Or why? When she can manipulate you into doing it for all intents and purposes. It's typically how a lot of that stuff works. The cold hard truth about it is, when it comes down to it, by actually following all the choosy signals, don't get me wrong, choosy signals are nice, but by following all the choosy signals and walking up to her and actually initiating the whole entire thing, you've now put yourself in a precarious predicament. Meaning that, one, you basically just played right into her hands, and she didn't have to do any work. So she doesn't have to take responsibility for anything in a relationship. Anything that happens from there on out, you're responsible for everything. It's typically how that works. It's sad, but it's true. You're responsible for everything following that. And it's pretty much what it is. She manipulates to manipulate to manipulate to manipulate to manipulate. That's pretty much all a relationship is. A good example of that is, like I said, the beginning of manipulations of a relationship is the choosy signals. She manipulated you to come over to her to ask her out, to manipulate you into asking her out. You see what I'm saying? She manipulated you to walk your ass happy hips over to her. Then she manipulated you again to ask her out. Then she manipulates you again when she asks you the question, what are we? She manipulates you into answering that question. Then she manipulates you into everything else after that for all intents and purposes. Then the sad part about that is, oh, nice. That's what's up. The sad part about that is, at the end of the day, she manipulates you. It's a series of manipulations while you're in a relationship. Good example of that, as I gave you yesterday in a podcast yesterday, was if she says, "Oh, I'm cold." Now, normally, you as a man, not really thinking, you would get up. If you're in the house, you would get out the bed, get up out your comfortable spot, walk all the way over to the thermostat, turn up the thermostat, and walk back to the bed and get into bed. She just manipulated you to go turn up the heat when in fact, either A, she could have put on some other blankets or some more clothes, or B, she could have got her ass happy hips up to go turn up the heat herself. So you just got manipulated into being a slave for all intents and purposes in that relationship for the fact that she could have got up and did that stuff herself, but she made you get up. Think about that. How many men that have been in a relationship have gotten those passive aggressive, I'm cold or I'm hot or I'm this, I'm that, and the other, basically, and you've gotten up without even thinking, walked your happy hips across the room, or took your coat off and gave it to her, walked your happy hips across the room, turned up the heat or turned down the heat, turned up the AC or turned down the AC, and basically got yourself into that mess. That's typically how that works. Because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you have to be able to understand what you're being manipulated into at all times. Because the sad part about that, a relationship is nothing more than a series of manipulation. That's all it really is. Because the sad part about that, anytime a woman can actually sit there and manipulate you, she'll up the ante and manipulate you again, up the ante again and manipulate you. Good example of that is, whenever she doesn't get her way, she'll pout. Then normally, like a normal man, you would feel sorry, you would go over there and capitulate to her, which means she manipulated you into feeling bad for her pouting. Meanwhile, you don't even know you have no clue why she's even pouting in the first damn place. So you've just been manipulated into, and you've been manipulated into capitulating to her pouting. Another good example of that is her crying. If she starts crying, everybody in the earshot is basically manipulated by her crying into seeing what's wrong with her and being a white knight for all intents and purposes. It's typically how that works. Or a good example of that is she walks past a bunch of men that she knows is going to whistle at her. Then she comes back to you and tells you that those men whistled at me, and then your butt want to go over there and try to fight all the men that was whistling at her. You just got manipulated into a fight, my dude. And it's simply how it works. Every single thing a woman does is nothing more than a series of manipulations to get you to do stuff or get you to capitulate to whatever they need you to do for that time and moment. Sad part about that is just don't really fall for it. Like I said, if you're going to get into a relationship and do that, I highly advise against it. But if you're going to do it, if she asks you, what are we? Simply, like I said, tell her, I don't know. You tell me what we are. And make her answer that damn question. Because the sad part about that, if you answer that question, she doesn't have to invest anything into that, besides the fact that you're the one that actually gave us the titles. Therefore, she can always opt out of the titles. The minute she has to open her mouth to actually say what you are, is the minute she actually has to invest in that relationship. It's simply how it works. And the sad part about that, if she can't answer it, then you don't need to be in a relationship. That's exactly how I look at it. If she can't answer what you are without you answering what you are, and the sad part about that, never answer that question. Make her answer that question or let her answer that question. Because at the end of the day, like I said, if you answer that question for her, you've already been manipulated into your downfall in that relationship. Basically, make her answer that question because that makes her have to actually invest. Because as soon as she opens her mouth, it comes out her mouth. Now it's on record that she actually said this shit. And now you have all the power in the world to basically either follow through with shake your head, yeah, or, say something like ditto. Or act nonchalant about like, whatever, it is what it is, Say something like that to her, basically. And, now you have all the power in the world because she had to open her mouth and actually say which you are. And the sad part about that, men don't do this. They fall in the trap of actually answering this question. Then they wonder what happened, like months, years, decades down the line on what happened, basically. Well, pimping, you was only there for manipulation. After all the manipulation was done and she got everything out of you that she wanted out of you, you pretty much got thrown to the side. Because the sad part about that, anytime a woman can manipulate you into doing stuff for them, the more they dislike you, or the more they always want to bounce or leave you for all intents and purposes, because now you're easy You're no longer a challenge. So the more you actually capitulate to them, the more they dislike you. The more they dislike you, the more likely they're going to leave you. The more likely they're going to leave you, 9 times out of 10, they manipulated you into like putty to the point where like you'll pretty much do anything for them at this point in time. And that's typically how a lot of this stuff works. A lot of men get manipulated into putty, and they can be molded and sculpted anytime a woman picks them up or wants to, put her thumbs in there and, mold you into what she needs you to be. It's typically how a lot of that stuff works. The sad part about that is men forget about this and they don't really think too much about it. And it's always like, well, this, that, and the other, or I can't believe this. Well, you got yourself manipulated into the situation by listening and complying and answering all the stuff that she actually threw at you. Never answer all the stuff that she throws at you. Never, never, ever answer the whole entire relationship question first. Let her answer that question first. Let her officially say it out of her mouth into other people. That way you have witnesses. And now she had to open her mouth and put her foot in her mouth. Now she can't back out of the shit now. Because if you say it first, she has all the opportunity to back out of it and change her mind like the wind. If she opens her mouth first, now she's actually invested, and now she actually has to put in actual work because she's the one that actually said it first. Therefore, now she's stuck. This is typically why, if you're in a relationship, a lot of men tend to say, I love you first before women do. Or a lot of men initiate kissing first too. And you don't want to do that. You want her to initiate that shit. You want her to take responsibility for her decisions that she's actually making. Because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, if she's doing all this stuff, she's now invested in you. A good example of that is asking a woman, the whole entire dating thing where you ask a woman for a number. If you ask her for a number, you basically you're basically responsible for calling her, texting her, basically. It's typically how that works. Now, if you give a woman your number, she's responsible for calling and texting you. That's typically why I say I'd rather give a woman my number than actually take a woman's number. Because if I got to ask for her number, she's going to be a friend. If she can't initiate the whole entire conversation, she's not worth your time. A good example of that is if you meet her on a dating app and she actually can't initiate a text message without you, she's not worth your time. If a woman can't initiate a text message without you and she needs you to always initiate all the damn text messages, she's not worth your time and she's not invested in you. That's typically how that works. And this is what I mean by the whole entire investing thing. Because the sad part about that is any woman that actually wants you and wants to be with you would actually text you first. You shouldn't have to text a woman first. You shouldn't have to wait around for a woman's text, or you shouldn't have to be the one who initiates all text messages every day of the week. Because the minute you have to initiate text messages every day of the week, you've been manipulated into some bullshit, basically. Now, I will say this. There are women who actually will initiate text messages, and you actually watch that pattern. The minute they stop, that's the minute they lost interest in you. It's typically how that works. The minute they stop texting you every day and stop sending you messages every day, that's the moment that they stopped actually investing in you. So it's one of those things where like you have to basically be able to, traverse it properly. If she don't text you, don't text her. Make her text you. If she don't text you for days, then that's pretty much a done deal. That relationship is pretty much over. That's simply how it works. Because like I look at it like this. I'm gonna need you to keep the same energy you had in the beginning, or I'm gonna need you to keep the same energy that you claim you have towards me. The same energy and love and admiration you say you claim you have towards me, I'm gonna need you to keep that in your text messages while you're texting me every day. So it's one of those things where like if she can't text you every day or she won't text you every day, then she's not worth your time. So the minute you actually have to actually start initiating text messages, the relationship is pretty much, that's the beginning of the end of the relationship for all intents and purposes, because she lost interest in you. Because the sad part about that, there's nothing she could say that actually can change the fact that she lost interest in you and she's not texting you. She can't say she's busy because normally she would text you and say hi or good morning or something short and sweet for all intents and purposes. If she's not doing that no more, she basically lost interest in you. The minute she stops texting you or calling you, She's lost interest in you. That's pretty much how that stuff works. And the sad part about that is sometimes women do that to manipulate you into texting them because they think they got you hooked. The sad part about that, the minute you don't text them, pretend like I always say when it comes to stuff like that, if she don't text you or message you, out of sight, out of mind. That's pretty much how it works. Out of sight, out of mind. So if she don't text you first, it's one of those things where it's out of sight, out of mind. A good example of that is my friend, what's his name? Damn. The fuck is his name? I can't pronounce his name. We'll call him Avi for short. Shit. We'll call him Avi. Shit, I can't pronounce his name right now. We'll call him Avi. So my friend Avi is actually on a dating app, and he was actually talking to a Jewish woman. Now, what happened with that is Avi and this Jewish woman was going back and forth and this, that, and the other. They eventually, transferred from, being on an app to actually a cell phone and stuff like that, and they started texting each other back and forth. So after a while of that going on, she actually stopped texting him. And he was texting her, and he was trying to figure out what was going on with that, and he was trying to figure out what was up with that, and she would like barely text him, or she would give him one line answers or stuff like that. And that goes basically pimping. She lost interest in you. Like the only way to get that back is if you send like a series of text messages to actually manipulate her back to you for all intents and purposes. And the question is, I ask them, is she worth it? And I seen her picture and I go, yeah, she might be worth it. But then again, I see other pictures and it's like, nope, she's not worth it. But he wanted to be with her. So it's one of those things where it's like, look, I'll help you, pimpin'. So he basically sent a text message, and it basically gave her no option but to either answer or not, basically. So it's one of those things where it's like, he didn't ask her a question. He demanded that. He basically told her what he wanted. And the sad part about that, either she didn't answer and didn't return the text, or she was going to answer and return the text, because it ended up being one of them text messages where like you basically told her this is what this and Saturday and this that. So basically, you didn't ask her, you basically told her. So he was very forced. The text message was very very like assertive, and she actually responded back to him and says, "Okay, I'll be ready. I'll be ready to be picked up at this time," basically. So now they're in a relationship together, and I highly advise against him being in a relationship with that woman, but that's what he wanted and that's what he chose. So therefore, I guess my blessing until she fucks him over. Then I'm gonna laugh at him and tell you, told you so. Typically how that works. So my friend Avi's in a relationship with a single mother who's Jewish, who came from Israel to America. She's she is a physician. I don't know if she's actually practicing or not, but that's what she is. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you have to be able to understand what the heck is going on. Because I look at it like this: if a woman really wants you, she'll text you. If she doesn't really want you, one of two things is happening. And I will admit this, because I'm not going to throw women completely under the bus on this one. But one of two things are happening if she doesn't text you. One, she's not interested in you no more, or it's one of those things, like I said, out of sight, out of mind. Or two, she's scared. She's very scared. Because 9 times out of 10, if you deal with a woman like this, 9 times out of 10, she's probably been done wrong in relationships to the point where she's scared to initiate anything with you because she's scared of the fallout or outcome like she is in previous relationships, which actually does fall on her for the reasoning that that's something that you need to work on, and this is a new relationship. However, you do have to take that into account if a woman was in a bad relationship. Now, I do know a lot of women that were in bad relationships and they got themselves out of it, but it's one of those things where it's like, now every single time something happens, or every time she wants to do something, she won't. And she expects you to do it first for all intents and purposes so she can return the favor. And the neat thing about that, women like that, is a lot of the women like that tend to get themselves into a lot of the like, I'm not talking about women that get themselves in a multiple bad relationship. I'm talking about women that got themselves into one bad relationship. Not like, rode the cock carousel type shit, like just one bad relationship, and now they're jaded, basically. Is it jaded I'm looking for? I think that's probably the wrong word. My English sucks, but I think it's jaded that I'm looking for. But for all intents and purposes, there are women that, that are very jaded and are very scared to actually, really commit to a person. Because like a good example of that is I remember I was talking to one woman. She's only been in one relationship her whole entire life, and it was a kid. It was the father of her. It's the father of her children. So apparently, what happened was she doesn't like gifts for the fact that every single time she got a gift from her baby daddy, he fucked up. That's simply how that works. So every time she associates gifts with somebody fucking up, basically, and it's typically how that shit works. So you'll run into a lot of women who have this problem where they were in a relationship and they actually associate gifts with you messing up or you doing something wrong or you being guilty of something for all intents and purposes. So this is typically a decent amount of the women that you'll run into it nowadays. Not a decent. This is I would say about a 10% or a 20% of women that you'll run into nowadays that'll be on dating apps or that'll be out there that'll be single mothers that they were in a relationship or if they don't have children, they were in a relationship and every single time they got a gift, it was because their significant other fucked up. So every single time they get a gift, they pretty much know he fucked up. So it's one of those things where like they picked a bad relationship, they got into a relationship, they got screwed, and now they're out of the relationship. Now these are typically women that get out of those relationships, but these are typically women that are pretty much destroyed or damaged goods for all intents and purposes because they got themselves into that relationship and it's traumatizing, and now they're scared to trust or they're scared to open up to men, basically. So you got a lot of those women that actually do that too. So I will say that there's that small group of women that actually, who actually suffer from that. I'm not talking about the women that, suffer from that, but they've been in like, they don't run the cock carousel or they done been in like multiple relationships, the same damn thing over and over again. And the sad part about that, a lot of women will say something like that. I have another female friend that's scared to actually date a man. She's really interested in the man, but she's really scared to date the man because she doesn't want to date because she's scared of it going south again for all intents and purposes. Now, it's one of those things where it's like you have to actually be able to when it comes to relationships, basically both parties have to be willing to put themselves out there. If they're not willing to put themselves out there, mind, body, and soul, then it's not worth you actually doing. And the sad part about that is like, you know what? If you're not ready to date, there's no point in leading this man on because you're just manipulating this man down the road for no fucking reason whatsoever, which is really sucky for that guy because he could be going out and dating other people. But if you're really interested in this guy, you better let him know what the hell you're feeling so you don't string this man along. Is basically what I told her. So it's one of those things where like she's very interested in the man and she does things. Here's how I know she's interested in the man. Because she's done multiple things and they told me about it. And it's like, really? Because you don't want a boyfriend or you're not trying to be in a relationship, but you're trying to actually be with this guy without trying to claim a title in the process. It's like, he doesn't know what you are. So 9 times out of 10, he's not going to move unless he knows what he's doing. And the sad part about that is she's very comfortable with this guy. And they laugh, they joke, they play together, they send each other text messages. She sent them a nude of herself, basically. So it's one of those things where she's actually into this guy for that reason because she sent the nude of herself. So it's one of those things where it's like, the guy didn't have to pay for the nude. She sent him a nude of herself. And it's one of those things where it's like, you're into the guy. Okay, be honest with the guy because he's not your friend. Because you don't send your best friend's nude pictures for all intents and purposes. You don't do that. That's not how this shit works typically. If you're going to send a nude picture, you're going to send it to somebody that you have some interest in. You're not going to send a male best friend unless he's gay. You're not going to send a male best friend a nude picture of you. It just doesn't work like that. And so it's one of those things where it's like because it's one of those things where like she's not trying to actually she's interested in a man and she really wants to be with the man, but she's scared to actually open her mouth to actually say she wants to be with the man. So now this man's being manipulated in a false relationship, in a relationship he don't even know he's fucking in, because she already said she doesn't want to be in one, but he's technically in one, but she doesn't want to be in one. Because the sad part about that, I remember he told her the one time while we were all sitting there, he goes, he's thinking about moving back. He's thinking about moving back to his hometown for all intents and purposes. And she said, well, bye, forget you too. So this is how you know she likes the guy this much, because she said that to him instead of actually saying, she don't like him. She would normally say, well, oh, I'll miss you and this, that, and the other. And, I really value our friendship, basically. She said, bye. Sit it with an attitude, basically. So she actually has feelings for this guy. So it's one of those things where it's like, I know she does. He knows she does, but she doesn't want to admit it, and she wants to fake like she doesn't. So it's one of those things where now she's manipulating him in his time with her, basically, to something that seems like it's going nowhere to him. Because he's talked to me multiple times about it, and it seems like it's going nowhere, and I actually look at it and actually reviewed it, and it looks like it's going nowhere. So now this man's manipulated into a not so relationship that she doesn't want to admit she wants to be in with this guy because she's scared. The sad part about that is, I remember the one time when they were hanging out, before he left, she goes to him, give him a hug. Like, wait a minute, how are you going to demand a hug from somebody? Who are you to demand a hug from some damn body? How about you just hug the man? Like, fuck out of here. Like, and the sad part about that, women would do stuff like this to manipulate you to do stuff for them for all intents and purposes. She wants to feel special, so she demands her hug, basically. Instead of actually giving you a hug, she wants you to give her a hug. So now she's manipulating that man into doing all this stuff for her, but she's not willing to actually return a favor as far as the title for that man. And the sad part about that is she's been doing this for a while, and I know her for the fact that she actually was in a bad relationship, and she's very jaded from falling in love again. But the sad part about that is, if you're not ready to be in a relationship, that's not something that you should engage in and string the man along for all intents and purposes, is what I'm basically saying. So she's basically manipulating this man into some shit that she has control over, but he has no control over, and he's still trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, and he doesn't quite know what's going on. So it's one of those things where it's like, I look at him, I look at her, I look at him and go, fuck it, I'm not hanging out with y'all niggas no more. And I just walk away. So I stopped literally talking to them. Because I told them, you know what? If she's going to do this to you, walk away. Just walk away. He goes, well, I have faith that she'll change her mind, or this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. Nigga, just walk away. Walk the fuck away. Because if she's going to do this shit, because I told him, look, here's the only way this shit's going to change. You ever heard the quote, absence makes the heart grow fonder? Yeah. You need to follow that and take that to heed and be absent from her for a good period of time. Maybe then, just maybe then, she'll realize how much she actually misses you, and then she'll have a come to you moment for all intents and purposes. And it's like one of those things where it's like, dude, come on now, you're being manipulated. You're being strung along. You're being manipulated for no fucking reason when you shouldn't be in this mess in the first damn place, because now she's just manipulating you. The sad part about that is, not only is she manipulating them, now she has plausible deniability for anything going south, or plausible deniability just in case she gets crazy and wants to blame him for something, or trip out on that man. Now she has plausible deniability to say, I didn't ask for this, or this, that, and the other. You're the one that made me do this, Or she basically has plausible deniability to blame him for any damn thing, for any outcome from that relationship, for the fact that she's just stringing him along, and he thinks there's a relationship there. And it's like, if you look at it from outward appearance, like from my point of view, there is a relationship there, but she's not willing to actually accept that there's a relationship there. She's not willing to accept the fact that they're in a relationship, which really sucks for that guy. I feel bad for that guy. I just met this guy not too long ago, and I already feel bad for this nigga. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where it's like, nigga, stop simping. because now you're simping out your time to this woman, and she's pimping your time, and she's pimping your time and you emotionally, and you financially, if you even spend money on her, that is. And the sad part about that, Halle Belly spent money on her for the fact that she doesn't really like gifts. If you give her a gift, she automatically thinks you fucked up. So I highly doubt he gave her a gift yet. So it's one of those things where it's like this man is in a this man is trapped in a going nowhere relationship. What's up, Americans? What's up, Baron Yam? I already said Troy the Man. I already said Elder Monk and stuff like that. Okay. So now this man is trapped in a pointless relationship, and he's stuck because he doesn't know if he's leaving or if he's going or what they are, what they not, or what they're not, basically for that reason. So it's one of those things where I keep telling them it's just time to get out, pimping. You might as well just let it go and get out. And yeah, like Gam said, she doesn't want to put in the effort, and that's typically what it is. And it's one of those things where he's being manipulated along just in case she has a come to God moment or come to you moment for all intents and purposes, or what's the I think I probably said that come to God. I probably said that wrong, but she basically is manipulating them until she actually figures out until I guess he crosses a certain threshold on where she needs him to cross so she can actually say, we're in a relationship for all intents and purposes. So now he's being manipulated to make the journey into uncharted lands for this woman, for her to eventually, somewhere down the line, return the favor. And that's pretty much all it really is. That is all it really is. Because at the end of the day, she's manipulating them into uncharted territories that he doesn't need to walk if she really wanted a relationship. She could open her mouth like a big girl and say, she could pretty much either ask him or say, we're in a relationship, or ask him, what are we? But she's not willing to do that, and she's scared, and she's been stringing this man along for a very, very long time. And that's typically how it works. And the sad part about that is the more he gets strung along, the worse the situation becomes. It looks more like a train wreck to me, but he thinks he got something, but it looks like a train wreck to me. That's just me though. But I'm just Tico. I'm just a innocent observer that's been witnessing the relationship for a very, very long time. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, that is not worth your time, pimping. But if you want to do that, you want to throw away the time, effort, money, emotions, and all that stuff, I'm not going to knock you for doing it. Just do it yourself. Don't blame me, or don't say I didn't warn you for all intents and purposes if shit doesn't go right. And that's pretty much how I feel about it. And the sad part about that is these men get themselves into the most precarious messes known to man, and then they wonder why or how this happened, or they wonder how and why it's a thing. I mean, so it's one of those things where it's like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And for what reason did this happen? And it's one of those things where you got to ask yourself, did you catch all the signs in the beginning? And if not, why didn't you? Why didn't you catch the signs in the beginning? Why didn't you follow your gut instinct or follow your heart or whatever you want to call it, so you wouldn't drive down that road and get heartbroken and be left ass out, cash out for all intents and purposes? Why would you continuously follow a woman into hell who's not willing to capitulate, or not willing to return the favor, or not willing to return her admiration for you? True story, yeah. True story. You on point today there, Pippin. And I feel bad for that guy, but there's not very much I can do for that guy. He has to basically have a come to grips moment with himself. He really does. I feel bad for him. What's up, Shinobi One? But like I said, he has to have a come to grip. He has to come to have the coming to terms with himself, so he can actually be able to traverse it better. And it's one of those things where it's like, look, dude, I'm here for you, but I'm not going to be here for you very, very long time. Yeah, like America said, don't stray off into uncharted waters. If it's not necessary, I look at it like this. If you're going to be in a relationship, she at least have to meet you halfway, or at least 60-40, or 45-55. She at least got to meet you at some point. If you're traveling way too far in uncharted territories to get this woman, It's not worth your time. You might as well pack it up and pack up the expedition, turn it back around and go back to where you need to be in your comfort zone. Because the sad part about that, that would be like going that far for a woman would be like, Germany marching into Germany marching into Russia during World War II. What happened with them? They got froze out. They lost all their rations. They didn't have any supplies. They basically damn near died, and they basically had to retreat. You don't want to be like that. You basically want to be able to go on about your merry way and make sure that you're not going to be damaged or emotionally scarred from a person like this. Sad part about that, I understand her gripe, but if you're not willing to be in a relationship, don't string a man along. And that's typically one of the many problems that I have with women when they do this stuff. I'm not ready to be in a relationship. Well, quit stringing a man along and tell him that you're not ready. You're not ready to be in a relationship. And the sad part about that is some women do, some women don't, most women don't. Sad part about that, they continuously string the man along in hopes that maybe they'll change their mind and want to be in a relationship with them. And it's typically how it works. Yeah, and the sad part about that is you don't want to be in that mess, nor do you want to be caught up in that whole entire thing for the fact that now you're being screwed out of your time, and time you can't get back whatsoever. You can never replace the time that you put into something. It's a waste of time, basically, especially if it doesn't pan out. It was hella waste of time. Like you can get money back, you can always make the money back. You can't get that time back at all. You just can't. And as far as mental and emotional, there's a if you as long as you learn something from it, nothing ventured, nothing lost, or something like that. Or I forget that how that quote actually goes. Nothing ventured, nothing lost. Um, as long as you long as you learn something from it, I guess the time that you put in is worth the less life lesson that you learn from it. Sad part about that is you probably could have saved yourself the time and headache had you listened to me in the first damn place, young man. But it is what it is, and it's one of those things. Yeah, true story. There ain't no heroes in pussy. Um, but the sad part about that, and the sad part about that is, at the end of the day, and it's true what Shinobi once said. You basically have to master your biology. It don't matter how much you want that woman, and it don't matter how much you're really into that woman. You shouldn't have to put in this much work for a woman. You should never have to put in this much work for a woman. And at least on minimum, she should let you know how she really feels and not string you along. It's typically how that works. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's that too. Yeah. One thing I can say about her, she's actually not. She does use a lot of sex toys, but I know she's actually not actually banging anybody right now because I'm pretty much her best friend and she tells me every fucking thing. Yeah, so I know she's not sleeping with anybody, and I know sure as hell it ain't me, because he's not my type. But she talks to me about it all the time, and she talks about using sex toys, and she's doomed to be. She keeps on telling me she's doomed to be single for the rest of her life. This, that, and the other. This, that, and the other. I just look at her. She's crazy. I go, if you don't get your ass out there and go get some dick, bitch, quit telling me about this shit. And it is soul crushing time. It is soul crushing time when you put all that work and then come to find out it was all for nothing. It is very sad when that happens to a man. He puts in all this work and come to find out it was all for nothing. That's just like being in a relationship and you find out you're being cheated on. And the sad part about that, what a lot of women don't understand about this is the same feeling a man gets from being cheated on in a relationship, is the same feeling he gets when he puts in all this work and it's all for nothing. He gets that same exact feeling. And the sad part about that is, depending on a man, it could be to the gravity where he wants to commit suicide or wants to be sad or wants to be depressed and shut down, or it could be to the gravity of like, what am I doing wrong? But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I've actually talked about having a lot of female friends. I have female friends, and the sad part about that is they're people I would not fuck, even if they're the last people on earth. So it's one of them things where I'm not even attracted to them. So therefore, I'm not swayed by any of the stupid shit they say, and I will put them in their place or tell them what I think about them for all intents and purposes. So it's one of those things. That, for all intents and purposes, you're right to a certain extent. As far as they're concerned, I don't like them enough to want to have sex with them. So therefore, between me and them, yeah, I am gay with them because I'm not willing to have sex with them, and it's simply how it works. Like they're not attractive to me enough for me to actually want to have sex with them. Therefore, for most men, they're like, that's crazy, Tico. I can't believe you don't want to have sex with them. I want to have sex with women. I just don't want to have sex with these women. It's simply how it works. So it's one of those things. What's up, AJ? I seen your comment, but apparently YouTube must have deleted or you must have deleted it in my comment section about like women are expensive. I think YouTube either might have deleted it or put it in the thing or whatever. But what's up, AJ? Um, and I might be doing a live stream later if you want to jump in later too, AJ. Um, so it's one of those things where it's like I think I'm gonna have Shinobi one in on this one too. So I'm doing a live stream. It's gonna be I know I'm inviting Shinobi one for sure. Hidden's probably gonna be there, and maybe Baron Yam. But if you want to tag along too, AJ, you can come along too. But yeah. Um, Back to the lecture at hand. Um, but it's one of those things where it's like, to a certain extent, you're right, Shinobi one, because I really don't find them attractive. So yeah, you might as well say I am. When it comes to them, you might as well say I am, because I don't even get a hard on for these women. So you might as well say I am. Um, so it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, well, bye. And it's like you have to learn. Yeah, and that's sad that you had to learn it. That's sad that you learn it that way. And what's up, Hedden? MGTOW, this guy. What? I was searching for female ejaculation. Good stream though. He's an asshole. It's a whole entire asshole for that one. But yeah, it's one of those things where like you basically have to understand as a man if you're being strung along and being manipulated along by a woman. Because the minute you realize you're being manipulated along by a woman, you as a man have to actually make that hard decision on, do you want to continue this fruitless journey, or do you really believe that there's something at the end of this? If there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow or tunnel, or whatever the hell you want to call it, light at the end of this tunnel, do you want to continue it? Is it worth it? So it's one of those things where it's like you have to be able to discern what you're willing to put up with and what you're willing not to put up with. Because the sad part about that is the more you wait for this woman, 9 times out of 10, the more she's going to lose respect for you. But knowing my friend, 9 times out of 10, she probably would gain more respect and admiration for the guy, knowing her in general. Um, but she's just too scared to actually, do anything or push it forward. So it's one of those things where it's like, for this guy, is it worth it? If not, you might want to back out and cash out while you can, so you won't lose a lot of your time or effort and money basically on this woman. It's typically what I would say to this guy, and typically what I do say to this guy is like, you might want to back out so you won't lose your your time, money, and efforts on this woman. So you won't waste your time, money, and efforts on this woman is what I should say. So it's one of those things where you have to make it so it's worth your time and worth your effort. If it's not worth your time, if it's not worth your time or effort, then it's not even worth anything or worth it's not worth the price of admission for all intents and purposes at this point. Because the sad part about that is, why waste your time on things or people or women when you don't have to waste your time on them in the least bit? Why waste your time on somebody who's not willing to, you know, give you the time, basically? Well, she gives them the time, but she doesn't necessarily fully give them the time. She gives them just enough time, basically, to actually make it resemble like she's interested in them. But she doesn't give them the full amount of time to actually make it look like she's actually interested in them. So it's one of those things. Yeah, true. Manipulate. I said that to one thing. Manipulate. Man, it's being manipulated. Yeah. So, it's one of those things. Leave the nipples alone. Yeah, manipulated into a boob trap. For sure. So it's one of those things as a man, you have to be able to understand what you're getting yourself into and how far you're willing to go for somebody. Sad part about that, if that person's not willing to actually meet you halfway or meet you just a little bit past halfway, she's probably not worth your time. It's definitely not worth your efforts. Because the sad part about that, if she's not returning the efforts or time, then she's totally pointless, and you might as well just move right along and make it so that you don't ever have to worry about being hurt again. Because the sad part about that is the more you put time into this and effort into this, the more likely you're going to get hurt by this. The more likely you're going to get hurt by this, the more likely you're going to resent dating in women. The more likely you're going to resent dating women, the more likely you're going to go into red pill rage, and you're probably going to either you're probably just going to go into red pill rage, or you're going to turn into an Elliot Rodgers at this point. So it's one of those things where it's like, you have to be willing to put your foot down at some point and let her know that, look, this shit's not going on this long. Kind of like that one song that we were playing in my one last stream, is you is or is you ain't my baby. You basically have to do that with a woman real quick. And it's one of those things where it's like, if she's not willing to actually let you know, then let her go. And it is what it is. I didn't even mean to rhyme right there, but I did by accident. If she's not willing to, she's not willing to let you know, you time to let her go. That's real shit. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you as a man have to be able to overcome that and avoid being manipulated by women. If you can't do that, you're doomed to a life of manipulation by women. And like I was saying, women have the ability to opt out if they never have to commit in the whole entire manipulation relationship. Women always have the option to opt out, or she hides behind plausible deniability, which is like one of the many things that she'll do. The sad part about that is you don't want to be in that predicament, nor do you want to put yourself in a mess where like you got to worry about her opting out all the damn time. So at the end of the day, you have to be able to and be willing to say no or turn it down or walk away. This is typically why I always say, don't get into a relationship unless you're willing and able to walk away from that relationship. It's typically what I say. And the sad part about that is, I always say that to people, and they be like, some people get it, some people don't. But if you're not willing to walk away, don't get into a relationship. Just don't. Because the sad part about that is, I can't believe MGTOW the Wind just tried to call me with his goofy ass. He's such a goofy butt. He's such a goofy ass mofo. But yeah, never get yourself into a mess like that. Never, ever, ever be second fiddle. Never, ever, ever be in a relationship where you have to second guess or wonder where you stand with a woman. Never ever get yourself in a situation where you're trying to figure it out or trying to sort it out or trying to meet her more than halfway. Never get yourself into that mess. And like JJ's a Chronicle said, give her the boot. I keep telling this man this, but he don't want to listen. This nigga don't want to listen. And when I say nigga, I mean black, white, Chinese, Puerto Rican, Asian. It don't matter what you are. You're a nigga to me, basically. And by the way, he's white. But but yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you got to be able to walk away from this shit. Typically, like I always say, when it comes to relationships, like I was just saying not too long ago, if you're not willing to walk away, don't get into that relationship. Only get in a relationship if you're willing to walk away from that relationship. It's typically how it works. Talk about research these nuts. You're simple as hell. LOL. Yam. Ha ha ha. Something about breakfast and sausage fest. Okay. I'm going to skip right over that. Anywho's. I didn't let the cat out of the bag. I didn't say his name. All you know is he's a white guy and he's being strung along. That's all you know. I didn't let the cat out of the daggone bag. He ain't gonna know it's me. Well, unless my friend watches it, then she'll know I'm talking shit on her for all intents and purposes. So it's one of those things where like she gonna have to suck it up, Cupcake. I don't care about her like that. She's just a friend. You said bring him on. I'll think about it. I'll definitely will. I would have to probably like trick him into doing it because he's not willing to do it willingly. McTown and Winston ride the hurricane? Yeah, apparently he did. Because he tried to call me. Wind is awesome. Walk away is very important. Yeah, this is a very important concept. My walk away game is very strong. My walk away game is stronger than the pimp hand. The pimp's pimp hand. He said the hell when he tried to call Tigo during a live stream. Before I thought of doing it. Yeah, for the most part, yeah, he did. Yeah, so when you lose everything, you're free to do anything. True story. Tyler Durden. Yeah. That's from Fight Club. That's a good quote from Fight Club, most definitely. Losing it all is a hard lesson. Most definitely, Pimpin'. Most definitely. 20 miles fresh out of jail. Okay. TMI. I walked away once. Had to literally walk 15 miles home to my house. Nice. Damn, that sucks. It took 5 hours. But I've proved my point that the person was left in their own program. Yeah, true. Programs problems, yeah. 20 miles fresh out of jail. Yeah. True story. A cold November. All jacked up with his phone number. Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, what's up, a manly load? But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you basically have to be able and be willing to actually know and be willing to walk away from a relationship at any given time as a man. If you're not willing to walk away from the relationship, you shouldn't get yourself into the mess in the first damn place. If you're not willing to actually put in the work, then y'all both, if not either of you are not willing to put in the work, then y'all shouldn't be in that whole entire predicament in the first place. Because now you're just getting yourself into the situationship because one person wants it and the other person's, kind of reserved or trying to play it safe. So now you're in a situationship. And it's sad to watch somebody in that type of thing. Screwing up Tico and make him digress. You're simple as hell. No, but to be honest, it's one of those things where it's like, And my afterthoughts on that whole entire thing. It's one of those things where you have to be able to make it so that you're able to walk away, adapt, and move on and be a better human being and learn from the experience in the process. Because the sad part about that, if you're going to be wasting all this time, you better learn something. You better learn something. Because if you don't learn anything, then you really wasted all your fucking time for no fucking reason on not learning shit. And it's just it's a huge waste of time at that point. And you should be very disappointed in yourself for wasting that much time. Because at the end of the day, anybody that's willing to waste that much time and not learn anything from is either stupid and or just doesn't understand the concept of time. Yeah. You said profound classification from you when you say both individuals have invested in the time of a relationship. Yeah. For all intents and purposes, like they're invested in the relationship. Or the relationship. Or, it's a situation at this point. Because, if one person is chasing a person and the other person's like not even running, but they're kind of sort of walking away slowly, is it really worth your time on chasing? If it's not, then you might as well just let it go. Because at this point in time, you're basically digging yourself into a deeper ditch with that person. Because the more you dig yourself into that ditch, the more likely you're going to keep it up and continue to dig yourself into that ditch. The question is, do you want to be in that ditch? And is the ditch worth it? Worth your time and efforts being in that ditch? And do you want to make that the hill that you're going to die on when it comes to women? Because it comes down to that. This the hill that you really want to die on when it comes to this woman. And if she's worth dying on that hill, then I tip my hat to you. I really do tip my hat to you, but I don't see it. And I say you should walk away and just go back and lick your wounds and retreat and heal yourself and go find somebody else. That's pretty much how I feel about it. But, it's those guys. You say the last two strings were core and MGTOW concepts. What do you mean? Which last two strings? You talk about the one I did yesterday and the one I did today? Or the one I did last night and the one I did before that? But yeah. It's basically, for all intents and purposes, screw you, Hidden. Shinobi-Wan sitting there signing, co-signing on this shit. I mean, you don't have to co-sign on shenanigans, Shinobi-Wan. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's one of those things where you have to learn to accept. You have to learn to accept that you fucked up and you have to move on now from this person. Because now it's not the fact that the person is toxic, it's the fact that the person is not worth your time. And that's typically why I always say to these guys, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Because the sad part about that, if you disappear for a little bit, you best believe she's going to be wondering where you are or what you're doing. And the sad part about that, by doing that, now you're going to make her actually have to invest in you by disappearing. Because, like I said, absence makes their heart grow fonder, especially because both these women like these guys. And it's sad, but, because they've been hurt and damaged, it's like there's no point in dating them. He's projecting her personality into a way where she can be a princess. True story, blinded by goggles, definitely. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the time, money, or brain power, and definitely isn't. It really isn't, Hidden. Now, men are the prize, and it's all about female manipulation to make you believe that she's the prize, or make her believe. Hell, she even manipulates herself into believing she's the prize. True story. Definitely. I agree with that 100%. You and your damn Rick and Morty quotes, Shinobi One. You got a shit ton of Rick and Morty quotes. Just don't do it. Okay. Okay, anti Nike sentiments. AD, do it. In this order: time, money, brain power, emotions. Yeah, true story. True story. I don't date at all. Stay monk. Stay incel. Work on yourself. Concentrate on yourself, on your mind, and find yourself and be yourself. I agree with that 100%, Manny Lowe. But at the end of the day, all I want from men to do is to better themselves and not get caught up in the constant cycle of manipulation. Because the sad part about manipulation is women are willing to do it as long as you let them do it. Because the sad part about this is, like I say about anything, is nobody can do to you what you and nobody can do to you but what you let them do to you. And it's that simple. Nobody can do to you. A person can only do to you what you let them do to you, what you let them for all intents and purposes. So it's one of those things where if you let them manipulate you, you'll continuously be manipulated and string along. If you don't let them manipulate you or string you along, now they actually have to actually do some actual work to actually get what they want. That's typically how it works. And the sad part about that, a lot of men aren't willing to do that, and they get themselves into all these messes and wonder how all this shit actually happened, and end up sad and depressed and destroyed by the whole entire situation. And it's sad. It shouldn't be like that, but it's sad. But it is what it is, and if you're going to be in that type of relationship, you just got to know the downfalls to all the shit. And you got to be able to take the pros and cons as they come along with it too. Because the sad part about that, the minute you can't, is the minute you start getting screwed. The minute you start getting screwed is when you're really going to start feeling it. That's pretty much how it works. But y'all have a blessed day. Be good to yourselves. Treat yourselves like milk. Do not spoil yourselves. This goes for men, women, transgenders, gay, straight, anybody, Apache helicopter, whatever you want to call yourself or claim yourself to be. Do it and do it big. Just improve yourself while you're doing it. That's all I ask for. It don't matter which sex you are, what gender you are, what sexual orientation you're under, what religion you are. It don't matter. What political stance you are, it doesn't matter. Just improve yourself and improve upon yourself, and always keep an open mind to better and better yourself. That's all I ever ask for. But that's the end of the stream. Y'all have a good night. Be good to yourselves. I'll see y'all later for the last stream. Shinobi One. And Yam and Hidden probably. So I'll see y'all later for the last stream. Shinobi One, send me a text, send me a Discord message on when you want to do the last stream later. But y'all be blessed, be good, take care of yourselves, and hashtag Vagenda. Hashtag Vagenda. Hashtag Tico Lives Matter. Hashtag Vagenda and hashtag Tico Lives Matter. Hashtag Tear It Down. Y'all be blessed and be good to yourselves and always improve upon yourselves and be good. Adios.